you're asked about, hey, is it, and everybody online is it a right-wing turn or whatever. I want to clarify something that's important. There are three different parts of what we call Republicans or right-wing, right?
Hassan had his uncle Cenk Uygur on to debate a variety of topics, and in this clip, we're going to take a look at a point at which Cenk Uygur explains his apparent rightward pivot, right? His shift to the right that's been such a conversation among progressive and left-wing folks who watch this kind of YouTube channel stuff. It's interesting to hear another version of it in his own words, and as his nephew, Hassan really holds his feet to the fire in a couple of ways. I think it's really interesting, and it's apropos for the holidays as we all get together and talk about politics. Hopefully we keep it civil. Anyway, let's take a listen to this together. I'm going to chime in with my comments, and then I want to know what you think.
So, we should have different standards, and I'm curious. One of the reasons I'm bringing it up is I'm curious what you think about this. So, number one, when you talk, the three different layers are Trump in this new MAGA world, people around Trump, and then the voters, okay? So, for the people around Trump have proven in the past that they do not have good intent. Their intent is corporate tax cuts, being, vicious to immigrants, not just, hey, stop the border, not just remain in Mexico, but they've shown in different instances that they hate undocumented immigrants, but they also hate documented immigrants. Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, et cetera, et cetera. So, so the people around him are going to try to lead him in the wrong direction. I think Trump himself is can go in either direction because he's an empty vessel. He just wants to be popular. The people around him push him to do extreme things, and he did that, and he was perfectly happy to do that. I'm not making any excuses for him, okay? He did a whole heap of extreme stuff in his first term because of the Stephen Millers and the Steve Bannons, et cetera, pushing him in that direction. Is there a small percentage chance that Trump could actually go in the right direction if he thought it made him more popular? Okay. And I say, yes, I think there is a small percentage chance that he can actually go in the right direction if he thinks it'll help him. And he doesn't care about ideology at all. He doesn't care about a conservative ideology. He doesn't care about what MAGA ideology is. He will go in a direction that's popular. Okay. Potentially. Okay. Now, but that's both of those things are not as important as the right-wing voters. So what I now see is a different right-wing base. And so I'm curious what you think about this. In 2016, MAGA was Donald Trump is God. Whatever Donald Trump says, even if it's the exact opposite of what I always thought in my life, I'm going to defer to Donald Trump and forget anything I've ever said. And I don't mean on tariffs and stuff like that. A bunch of the corporate Republicans and corporate media pretended that the Republicans didn't like tariffs, pretended that the Republicans loved free trade, that the Republicans loved war, that the Republican voters loved corporations and corporate power. That's not true at all. But there are a bunch of things that Trump would say that was like corporate tax cuts is not populist. It's not popular. Right-wing voters don't even want it. But Trump said, no, give the richest corporations in the world a tax cut. And MAGA said, yes, the rich win again. Thank God. Woo! Right? And that made no sense. So I fought tooth and nail against not just Trump, but MAGA. What I'm seeing now is that there is a genuine portion, not the whole thing, portion of MAGA that is actual right-wing populist. And so what that means is we might disagree with them on social issues and we fight like hell on those social issues, but on some core economic issues, they actually are anti-war. They actually are anti-corruption. They are these things. I'm not saying Trump is. I'm not saying his advisors are. I'm saying the actual voters are. So I don't know if the number is 25%. I don't know if it's 55%. I don't know what the number is. But I don't think it's lower than 25%. And I think that 25% of the new MAGA, if Trump goes, no, I now say that Israel is great. You should all bow your heads to Israel. We're going to pay for their endless wars. And in fact, we're going to help them start a war in Iran. And you guys are going to have to fight that war in Iran. And you're going to have to pay trillions of dollars to fight that war in Iran. I think at least 25% of his base goes, that's not what I signed up for. So I'm curious what your take on that is. Am I crazy in your mind? There is no such thing. MAGA's still blind.
No, I think most Americans don't give a shit, and they operate on vibes alone, and they operate with whatever is in their pocket. And they might not have voted for Donald Trump originally because they were like certain that he was going to, that they were 100% certain that he was going to do mass deportations. Some people probably didn't even consider it. Other people certainly were interested in it. I don't think that every single person voted for 20 million immigrants being forcibly deported from this country by using the military. But that's neither here nor there. I think ultimately, whatever Donald Trump does, his base of support is still going to figure out a way to go along with it, just like they did. Trump did a whole bunch of unpopular things in 2016. He will continue to do a whole bunch of unpopular things this time around as well. And people are still going to find a way to reason with it and justify it as a sunk cost fallacy. In their minds, they're like, yeah, we voted for this guy. And I think things are probably going to be better. And you have a massive right-wing media ecosystem that will look to make it seem like that is the case, that Trump is actually on board with these principles they claimed he was on board with. And we see this with Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is a hawk. He is not a populist right-winger, and yet you don't see a lot of chirping coming from the MAGA media ecosystem. I do see it.
That's the difference. So I'm looking at right-wing populists, and when I tell them Marco Rubio, Elise Stefanik, Mike Huckabee, and Mike Waltz are Team Israel, Team Miriam, and they're neocons, and Tom Cotton's a neocon piece of shit, they go, yeah, we agree. Okay?
Yeah, but they don't care.
So they might not care now, but if they start a war and they say you pay for it and you fight for it, I think they're going to care.
Hold on one second.
And by the way, as he's closing that, because you think right-wing MAGA, some portion of it, 25% or whatever the number is, right, might agree with us or might do the right thing, doesn't mean that you agree with them on all the wrong things, right? Like a good example is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And this goes to your point more so far, right? Which is Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is cops on Wall Street. And every dollar spent there returns $20 in stolen money from the bankers.
Yeah, and the Republican donors hate it, and Donald Trump is going to nuke it into orbit.
Yeah, and there I'm saying, look, I disagree with MAGA. If MAGA agrees with Trump on that, I disagree. No, you guys are wrong. You're going to let them rob the place blind, and helping Wall Street is not a populist position. So this idea that the government is by definition is wrong is irrational. It depends. What's the government doing? The government does the military. The government does cops. The government does firefighters. The government does teachers. So should we not teach anyone? Should we not have any cops? What is the government doing? And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is not something that is meant to oppress Elon Musk and is some sort of woke thing. No, it's the thing that says, hey, when Wall Street robs you, we come in and we reverse the robbery. And you know we're right because they have a team of lawyers and their squadron of lawyers concede and pay giant fines because they were robbing you, right?
I think
that's a good point. This throw the baby out with the bathwater argument is made. Everything's reduced to a binary. It's this or it's that. It's good or it's bad. It's right, it's left or it's right. It's red or it's blue. You can say that the government could have some bloated bureaucracy. You could say that we need better oversight, and you could say that we need, some increased efficiency, especially in targeted areas. And you can look at data and you can identify those areas, and you can work on and pass and write policies and laws that try to achieve those ends. And that's not the same thing as saying all government is bad. Let's get rid of it all. Let's burn it down. That's insane. I mean, the government does really, really good and necessary things for us that we all take for granted.
He threw a bone at the Teamsters by picking like a more favorable, a Republican that was actually in support of the PRO Act, which, puts her ahead of the likes of Mark Kelly, famously. But ultimately, when you look at her AFL-CIO score, she's still scoring at 10%. So I don't think that these people...
Teachers Union wants her. The Teamsters wants her. Almost every union wants her.
I think they're making a calculation that like she's better than a absolute psychopath that they were going to put in place. And I totally understand that. I know, but that's still far worse than a Democrat putting,
would you, if let's say you unilaterally can decide she's a labor secretary under Trump, yes or no, what do you decide?
Yeah, no, I have a decision in this process.
You don't get to pick who it is. You just get to say yes or no to her.
Oh yeah, no, I do say yes to her.
Okay, I agree.
Yeah, no, you and I are in agreement on that. I'm saying that like I think that it is simply leaning in that direction. It's the same reason why like Josh Hawley presents himself as a populist when he's not. You know what I mean?
No, he's half a populist now. He's a quarter of a populist now. He stopped taking corporate PAC money, and what happened right afterwards? He became anti-war and anti-corruption. Now you could say it's bullshit, but if you vote a certain way, it's not bullshit. Votes are votes. Okay. So now, if you say on the other hand, I could show you 12 things he does that's fraudulent and actually helps the bankers. I agree with you.
Yeah, he comes across great when he's like cutting at like pharmaceutical CEOs or whatever in a congressional hearing. But ultimately,
that's a huge step up.
I just don't
from
think
a squadron of establishment Republicans who were just like corporate robots.
No, I think that these guys are recognizing that there is a messaging gap that the Democratic Party has lost. It's the Tucker Carlson phenomenon. I talked about this back when Tucker Carlson had the most popular news broadcast in television, where I said, I warned America and I warned the Democratic Party that, like, because you are actively undermining left-wing economic policies and actively undermining left-wing economic, like real economic populism, and you're pushing it away, someone's going to make up for the messaging gap. And it's going to be the right wing. It's going to be the likes of Tucker Carlson, who present themselves as falsely in support of these sorts of policies. When push comes to shove, they're not going to do it.
So you don't have to vote for Hawley, and I'm not voting for Hawley. But if Hawley votes with us, or Matt Gaetz votes with us, as toxic as they might be, if they vote with us on, for example, what Gaetz did vote with us on, saying that the president cannot bomb Iran without getting permission from Congress, you take the win, right? You say, all right, okay, I like that Matt Gaetz voted that way, and I like that
ultimately they know that they're not going to be disruptive enough. There isn't a big enough coalition in the right that is actively in support of these things.
I just don't want us to reject, and that's why, when they say yes. Does that make sense?
I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I'm just very skeptical, because I'm already skeptical when the Democrats even do that. So why would I not be skeptical when the Republicans do it? I think that they're even less decent than the Democratic Party, and I think the Democratic Party is indecent to begin with.
You know, that's a great point. We've been burned so many times by the bait and switch and the Trojan horse that, you know, it's almost impossible to trust the Republicans when they say even something that sounds like it's going to line up with what you want. You know, but it comes from both sides. So this trust in government right now is at an all-time low. Anyway, I would love to know what you think in the comments. These guys touch on a lot of things. It's a popular topic now to talk about Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian on the Young Turks and whether or not they're doing a right-wing pivot. I've seen a lot of videos here where Cenk Uygur is talking about what he means by a right-wing populism. And, you know, it's still, I side a little more with Hasan. It sounds a little pie in the sky to me. It sounds a little wishful thinking. But I'd love to know what you think in the comments.